Welcome to Demond Does the 6 questions, where the same 6 questions can tell a unique story. I am your host, Demond, father of 2, husband of 1, and leader of this here Demodcast. My guest was recently married on 2/22/22 at 2:02 and is a father of 2 plus 2 or 2 times 2. He is one of the hosts of the Off the Record podcast and a closet sneakerhead. Give it up for the man known as OTR Mike, Micheal Parker.
You have the best intro I've heard. You really do. I haven't been welcomed on a show like that ever. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, and thank you for taking time to talk to a perfect stranger. I appreciate you. How you doing?
Good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big fan of y'all's show, and it's very strange to listen to a podcast and then talk to the person who does the podcast. I'm like, your lips are moving.
Right.
That's the actual voice I hear. How is that? It's weird. It's weird. It's kind of like seeing your teacher somewhere outside of school. You know what I mean?
Yep. They're supposed to be your teacher no matter where they are.
Right. You're like, what are you doing outside the school?
Yeah. You're not supposed to be. And why are you dressed like that? You're supposed to be dressed like a teacher, not like somebody that has a life outside of teaching. But yeah.
I love it. So, okay, my first question before we get into anything else is, why didn't you wait 20 more minutes to get married? Because they'd have been 2/22/22 at 2:22.
It was supposed to be 2/22/22 at 2, right?
Okay.
Now, of course, things going, people late, things, waiting on this, you waiting on that. And the officiant was like, hey, I just want to let you know that it's 2:02. And we're like, let's do it now. Go now. Let's and let me go play this in the lottery after this. Okay. So let's get this down on the record. And then let me go play these numbers in the lottery. So
hell yeah, that's
how it
awesome.
happened, man. But we should have went. I wish I could. I wasn't thinking like that. I was really nervous. When she said that, it kind of eased me a little bit. And I'm like, oh man, that's pretty cool. So we took it and we ran with it.
And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And had a birthday, 40, right?
40.
Or I can't. Or if you don't want me to broadcast your business, I
No,
can.
that's cool. I probably broadcasted it all on Twitter and Instagram anyway. So yeah, 40, March 23rd. I just turned 40. I did. This past weekend was celebrating all weekend long. I realized how washed up I am. I can't hang out like I used to. But my wife had a bunch of things planned, and I'm grateful for that. But I had to take off of work yesterday just to recuperate from all of the fun and the festivities that happened over the weekend. So I'm officially washed up, and I accept it. It's cool. I'm okay with that. But nonetheless, good time, great time.
That's awesome. I love it. I know about Off the Record. Tell the congregation, the I'm not sure I still don't know what to call the listeners, to be honest. Tell the people, baby, tell the people about your podcast.
Yeah, so Off the Record podcast, I like to say the real Off the Record podcast. And I also like to follow that by, the other guy that uses the name, he can holler at my lawyers if he want to. Just jokes. It's all comedy, guys. It's all comedy. Yeah, Off the Record podcast, 4 lifelong friends who've known each other 25 plus years. We decided to get together, do a podcast, and now we touch on every and anything, whether it's mental health or entanglements, whether it's Chris Rock and Will Smith fighting on the Oscars, or it's why a man deserves right to see his children. So we touch on a wide range of topics. The idea was to give our perspective from 4 African American men, and right now we're doing okay with it. So yeah, that's Off the Record.
How long have you guys been recording Off the Record?
So believe it or not, man, we're in our second full year. We just completed our second full year, I should say. it seems long, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, that it's not as long as some of our counterparts. We got a lot of talented folks out here that's been doing this for a while. We latched on quickly to the wonderful podcast community. We were accepted early on, so some people refer to us as OGs in this game, but really we're still learning, man, as we go, and still try to find our way as we go. But yeah, just a little bit over 2 years for us.
Right on. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. And one more thing, I am a part of a new boxing podcast for all the boxing fans. It's called Ring Kings Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. It's me, my buddy Jose, and my boy Boddie. We just started that a couple months ago, and yeah, we trying to get a boxing fans what they want. So that's the other thing that I'm a part of outside of off the record.
So, OTR Mike, are you ready to answer the 6 questions?
Let's do it.
Question number 1. When did you know you wanted to get into podcasting?
Probably 4 years before we actually started the podcast. But what ended up happening was I just didn't know where to start. So it was one of those things where, man, I think podcasting would be cool, but I have no idea outside of buying a microphone and a headset or headphones, like what am I supposed to do? So I'm going to say we started in 2019. So I'm going to say around 2015 is when I thought about actually doing some podcasting.
When did you come up with the format, like in the setup and things like that for your show?
So a quick but not so quick story. So Alex, who is one of the co-hosts on Off the Record, he is the most accomplished, the most experienced podcaster of our group. Me, him, and another buddy were headed to a Baltimore Orioles baseball game. It was raining, so we were a little leery on going. So we decided, hey, let's stop and get something to eat. So we stopped and we talk and chit chatting. And he says, "You know, I have a podcast, right?" And I'm like, no, but I've known you for 25 years. Why don't I know you have a podcast? And he's like, man, I was just a little skeptical on letting people know. I'm just, and I'm like, how long have you been doing it? He's like, about a year. And I'm like, wait. You've been podcasting for a year and you did not tell any of us? He was like, yeah, man. So we got to chit chatting about it. And he was telling me about his podcast. He's a Lakers fan. So he started Lakers Central 365 podcast, which is very, very successful. And, it's just started picking up steam for him. So, man, this is really moving. And I'm a little shook, but like I'm ready to move, ahead with it. And I told him like, man, I wanted the podcast. I just didn't know how to start. And he said, hey, I'll help you. So it started with me, him, and another friend of mine. Me, him, and Brandon started Off the Record. We sat down and we decided, like we picked. It took us a long time to figure out a name, and I don't know how we came with Off the Record, but we were thinking, overthinking. I'm sure Off the Record came out, and we're like, okay, boom, let's do Off the Record. So the format was based off of us, like how we do when we get together to hang out to watch the basketball game. The conversations that we have end up being very interesting, whether they're funny, they're serious, or whatever. It's always a good conversation. So we said, why not get that on wax? Let's record that. As you know, those that listen is actually 4 of us, but I only mentioned 3. So Brandon couldn't make a recording one time. So we asked Quan, hey man, won't you sit in for him? And Quan sat in on 2 episodes. He loved it. And he's like, man, I want to be down with this. And we like, okay, well, let us jump you in real quick. so he ended up joining the show from that point on. And was the start of Off the Record. A lot of people probably don't know this story, Damon. So you are getting an exclusive right here. Okay. It was 3, OTR Brandon, OTR Mike, myself, Alex. Quan stepped in for OTR Brandon, who couldn't make it. And then that turned into the 4 of us running with Off the Record podcast.
What is a closet sneakerhead? This is not a podcast question, but I am curious. What is a closet sneakerhead as versus a regular sneakerhead?
So not many people know about my shoe collection because I don't wear my rarest stuff, right? Some people buy it, they wear it, show it off, take pictures, post it on Instagram. I don't do any of that. I buy it. If I want to wear a shoe, I'll try to get two so that I can wear one and then have one that I'm collecting. That's what I do. So I called it a closet sneakerhead because, I mean, I guess those closer to me know that I'm into sneakers. But if you looked on my page and any of my social medias, you wouldn't be able to tell that I actually have a pretty extensive collection of sneakers.
So how did you get into collecting sneakers?
I can think of high school, but I know it was before that. Me and my cousin Jason, shout out to my cousin Jason. Man, we always were into the latest sneakers and even finding sneakers that not weren't the most popular to everybody, but was a nice looking sneaker. And we would always go and buy the same type of sneaker, maybe with a slight different color, just to be ahead of the game on certain things. And it's always been something that was, something that I was into. And then even when I got to an age where I was able to work, my first job at McDonald's, like all my checks were going to sneakers. And my parents hated it. I don't know what piqued my interest into nice sneakers, but I know it was way back in middle school and those type of things. Probably, I'm gonna blame one of my siblings, probably my brother, who got me into it, and I just kind of ran with it, man.
What is the prize sneaker in your collection right now?
My prize sneaker right now is probably the Spider-Man Origin One Jordan sneakers. Those are the sneakers that Miles Morales wore in that movie. They actually came out in 2018, I want to say. So I've had them since then, haven't worn them one time. And I think I paid 175 for them when they came out. You can do the research on your own if you don't believe me. But on like the resale sites right now, they're going for over 1,000.
Wow.
But my favorites are the Jordan 11 Concords and the Jordan 11 Breads. Those are my favorite shoes that I have now.
Question number 2. What do you wish you had known when you first started out?
Podcasting?
Mm-hmm.
Probably that people like yourself, people like Mike from the One Mike podcast, people like Tam, people like Baylor the Great, people like Jay Boog, people like Drew and Marcel from Diapers and Haircuts would be the biggest supporters. And they are all people I never met. Well, I met Drew. I'm lying. I did meet Drew and Marcel. We did because they're from the same area. Well, they're from the same state, Maryland. But I wish I had known that our biggest supporters would be people we don't know. Because I expected that, oh man, we dropping the podcast. We know all of these people, man. This is gonna do great. Everybody's gonna support it. And I took pie to the face because I was so wrong with that.
That is such a common comment and a common experience in podcasting. You're not the first person. Matter of fact, it might have been Mike. It might have been Mike who said that. It's very strange. I'm really lucky because my mom listens. Hi, Mom. My mom listens to everything. She's like, "What are you doing? I don't even know what you're talking about. Who are these people?" But she's but she's there as my mama. But and there are friends I've had for like you like your crew 20 some years who they're just not interested, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean it's your loss, but it's okay.
Right.
Then you meet so many cool people and you meet so many people who are passionate about it, and you're like
Yeah.
brothers and sisters from from other mothers and from other cities, and you've never even been in the same state, much less the same room, and it's wild. I've had the exact same experience in that respect, and yeah, absolutely.
Man, there's so many dope, amazing people who I haven't got to shake hands with or hug or whatever, but like support me more than, like you said, people that I've known for 25 years. And it was tough for me at first because I'm like, dude, like, anything, I'm the type of person, anything you put out, you can put out a country album. Country is not my favorite, but I'm gonna listen because I know who made this album, right? But I had to accept and learn that not everybody is like that. And like you said, it's okay. It's okay. They're lost, right? But it was tough for me early on because I expected, like, come on, man, like, I support you. I would support you, man. Come on, just take a listen, pass it on to somebody or whatever the case may be. And it wasn't that way. But this community, that we're in with these other wonderful podcasters, man, it's like, I think we all realize the type of work and time that we put in to do these things. And I think that's why it's easy for us to accept and gravitate and support each other, man. So from day one, that's another thing that it was like polar opposites, right? So I went into this thinking that all of these people that I know personally are going to support, and that the people that I don't know, all of these other podcasters are going to hate on us because we're a new podcast and they want to get to where we want to get. So it's going to be all of that dealing with that within the community, and it was the complete opposite. And that's the amazing thing about this community, man. It's the support has been A1. A1. I have no complaints about, getting into podcasting and then being a part of this indie community.
Question number 3. What is your go-to order at your favorite hometown restaurant?
I'm simple, man. I judge a restaurant by its wings. You can't go wrong with an order of wings. So if you mess up the wings, I can't eat here no more. So it's like, so I would say my go-to is wings. Like I judge everybody by the wings. If you got good wings, then I know that you probably, the rest of your menu is probably dope. So I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say wings in particular, right? Here in Maryland, we're big on Obey seasoning. So a lot of people don't know what Obey. So Obey is what they put on the crabs and the seafood here. They have a honey Obey wing in this area that is, if anybody comes to visit, Mike is going to take you to get honey Obey wings. Okay. If I see those on the wings, I mean on the menu at any restaurant, I'm gonna try it. If you got good honey Obey wings, then I know the rest of your menu is good. So I'm gonna go with wings.
Okay.
As simple as that is. I know that. I know you probably was like, maybe I would say some, I don't know, shrimp etouffee or something, but not wings, man.
I say this probably once every podcast or once every interview, whether it makes the cut or not. As long as you're telling the truth, I really don't care what you I really don't care what you tell me, to be honest. I want to know. I wouldn't have asked if I didn't want to know. What's one of the best places that you've had wings?
I'm gonna say locally we have a spot called Looney's Pub and Grill. It's like an Irish pub, but top to bottom the menu is great for bar food. It is bar food, but it's like it's really good bar food. But they are the first place that I've experienced honey obey wings. Then other places in the area started to do it. So I have to go with who I think is the originators. I'm gonna say Looney's Bar Pub and Grill.
Question number 4. What are you curious about?
I find myself being curious about like I like learning about other people. It's interesting in me to learn how others were brought up, where they were brought up, how they were raised, you know, just how their quality, not so much their quality of living, but because I think sometimes, in most cases, your quality of living is what you make of it, right? I've heard someone say it was Michael Beasley actually. We did an episode on Michael Beasley, and Michael Beasley said we didn't know we were poor until a friend of mine came over that wasn't poor. It told me, "Hey, you have roaches in your house." He thought that was just what it was because that's all he knew. I don't know. I don't know why, but I just like to learn the differences of how it was and where you came from and compared to how it was where I came from and just learning those different things, man. I don't know why. I can't quite pinpoint it and I've tried to figure out why, but I just think that learning people is amazing. You can learn so much from person to person, just from, we could be the same age, right? And we could all grown up on the East Coast, for example, right? But we could all have a different way of, how we came up and those type of things. So I don't know. That's amazing. That stuff is fun to me. That's what I'm always curious about.
Have you always been that way?
I have, man. I have because I find people interesting, right? And people would tell me that I was quiet. And I think at one point in time, I don't think I can be, but I think at one point in time I was obviously a little more quiet than I am now. But just like right now with you and I, we haven't met, but I feel like I could have a dope conversation with you, and I feel like we are now, right? And this is interesting to me. This is what piques my curiosity is just learning what you think, what your go-to food is, what you thought about coming up in this podcast community. I've always been like that though, and I never could pinpoint why, but I just think it's so interesting in learning people.
I am in agreement. It's one of the reasons I actually started podcasting.
There you go. There
I,
you go.
I'll go ahead and tell us real quick. I used to wait tables, and once I got pretty good at the job, I would play this game. I would play this mental game where it's like, if I can get the table to talk to me, if they're in the mood, I'm going to get them to say something that I would not expect them to say.
Right.
And it's easy, and that's much easier to do than people might think because we all come in with our preconceived notions of people
Hmm.
for whatever reasons. Because I have my experiences, my the things that I've learned, and my own biases. So when I see a dude with a sleeved up tattoo talking about he's a doctor, it's like,
Right.
well, of course you are.
Right. Right.
you know,
Exactly.
and it's
Exactly.
it keeps me from getting to it keeps me from getting into my head too much about
Hmm.
people, because you like give them a chance, because you don't know what you're going to learn from somebody, and you can, if you talk to them long enough, learn something from everybody.
Yes. Yes. I totally, totally 100% agree. And that's part of the reason why, like, I've never turned down, not that I'm the most sought out guest to come on someone's show, but I've never turned down anyone's invitation because I think that just for what you said, that like, man, this is an opportunity to meet somebody, learn something about a person, learn something, period. You never know what you're gonna get out of this. And I just think that side of life is dope. And that we're able to do this, right? With the great technology that we have and not actually have to be in the same room, or you know what I mean? Like, that's great to me, man. It's weird that I can't really put it into words or why it is, but I just think that's amazing to me, and it's awesome. It's really is awesome, and that's what makes what we do great.
Question number 5. What should I ask you that I didn't know enough to ask?
So this was a good one. What I'm about to share with you is something that my wife just found out about me 2 days ago. I'm known as the nice guy at the local Dunkin' Donuts around my, my neighborhood. And this is why. Because I'm that guy who in the drive-through get my coffee and I say, hey, what's the order behind me? And they tell me and I pay for it. I do that every time I go to Dunkin' Donuts. Every time because and now I'm like I said, now I'm known as, oh, that's that nice guy. He always pay, you know what I mean? And again, I just shared this with my wife. Matter of fact, she was with me, and we were getting coffee, and I was like, "Hey, what's the order behind me?" They were like, "You gonna pay again?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They were like, "Oh, it's $2." I was like, "Oh, that's a good one. I picked a good one here. You can, yeah, yeah, go ahead, on me, on me." But man, that's me. I'm that guy who treats the car behind me in the drive-through to their meal or their coffee or whatever it may be.
Why do you think you're so generous?
You know what? That's a good question. I like to make people happy, right? I don't know. I've been through a lot, right? So I know what it feels like to be in a down place. I lost both of my parents 2014, 8 months apart. And that's probably the worst year. Not probably, that is the worst year of my life. And I was in the dumps, man. Once I came out of that, I vowed to try my damnness not to get there again. And and this is crazy you're asking me this because me and my wife yesterday went to go get brunch and the server is taking our order and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I got an emergency call. I have to take this call." I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I was like, "Man, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead." Took the call. He came back apologizing again. And he's like, "Man, I'm unfortunately, I'm forced into a situation where I have to make decisions that I really don't want to, right?" And I'm like, "Man, don't you say another word. I totally understand." So we go throughout the day. We eating our food, get the bill, and I told my wife, "Hey, I'm gonna leave this guy a note." So I wrote on the note, "I know exactly what you've been through, but what you're going through right now. Is keep your head up." And he came back. Well, he bought me a drink for free, which was good, but I wasn't expecting that. But he did say thanks for the kind words. What I said to my wife at that time is, I'm like, you never know what somebody's going through. He looked perfectly fine, perfectly happy, getting ready to take our order until he got that call. And clearly, that call shook him to whatever it was, but it shook him, that unfortunately I got to take this call and you just never know. So the person behind me in the coffee line could be having the worst day of their life. And I'm gonna try to do my part to make that day just a little bit happier. And if I can pay $2 for somebody's coffee and it's gonna for that moment change their life, or not change their life, but for that moment make them happy, I'm gonna do I'm with doing that. So that's why I'm the way that I am, man. And somebody did that for me. Honestly, I was getting coffee and I went to go pay and I'm on the phone. I'm running my mouth. So I'm handing my card off to the lady. And she's like, "Oh, it's already paid for." And I was like, "Huh? It's already paid for." And I was like, "What? You sure?" "Yeah, the card in front of you paid for it." And I was like, "Wow." And I said, "Okay, we'll pay for the car behind me." And as I started doing this, man, that happened about a year or so ago. And I just was like, man, that made me feel really good. So I want to give that to people. So yeah, man, it's something that I clearly enjoy doing. I don't mind blessing people if that's what they want to look at it. If that's how they want to look at it. If $2 is gonna bless somebody, man, put a smile on their face, let me do
Yes, yes,
it.
yes. And two things. One, I think you're selling yourself short a little bit. This is just the gospel according to the mind. This is not based on any fact, but this is how I see it. The person that $2, we'll use the $2 coffee. The person that you bought that coffee for, it had to have changed their day, at least surprised them, and it changed their day at least for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That person is going to interact with people that you will not interact with and may never interact with, and will affect them hopefully in a positive manner as well. just became the pebble into the lake, and all those ripples.
Yeah,
So that's not a small thing. You know what I mean? That's not a small thing.
yeah, yeah, man. It's I guess one of the things that made my day in doing it as well is so one day I went to get coffee and the same young lady every day that hey, it's the nice guy or whatever. And she said, look, I'm gonna tell you that when you did that yesterday, it lasted for about 20 cars. Every car after you paid for the car behind it. And I was like, wow. And she was like, all because you paid for the car behind you. Every car that came up was like, okay, we'll just pay for the car behind. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's dope, but that's crazy. So yeah, man.
And how many people did they affect? All 20 of those carloads, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
yeah, own that, man.
yeah.
Like sit in that and own that for that's awesome.
I think I am gonna own that.
Say what?
I said, I think I am gonna own that. I'm gonna poke on my chest on that one.
And the other thing, which is much smaller, but it is important as well. You are on here because I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to learn from you and just chat with you. So this is yes, my name is on the marquee, but I definitely speak the least on this show. I probably edit myself more than I do the person I'm talking to. So by all means, whatever you want to talk about, worst thing I can do is just cut
Cool,
it.
cool, cool.
No,
Great. I get on and I'm like, damn, am I talking too much? But that's how you know I'm having a good time, man. I'm having a
good.
good
Yay. Yay.
time.
Question number 6. If you could create a new holiday, what would it commemorate?
This is gonna sound really bad because I feel like this is a moment that I am supposed to say something meaningful to commemorate. But man, again, like I said before, I'm simple, man. The Monday after the Super Bowl, just give me that day off. Just give me that day off. That should be a holiday for everybody. School, work, everything should be closed the day after the Super Bowl. And I'll be a happy man. I feel bad saying I feel like I'm supposed to say something that's really, really meaningful. But I think people would enjoy that, man.
I agree with you. One of the earlier episodes I did, it's probably within the first 10 episodes I did. This is 72, I believe. Guy had said the same exact thing. I mean, was and went into it. I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know. The NFL has really set like since actually since they started finding guys for dance end zone dancing and stuff,
Yeah.
like my interest in it has started to drop, and then the Colin Kaepernick thing happened, and I'm like,
Mhm.
come on, people, and just I don't know, but I get it.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah.
there are some people like I'm one of the commercial watchers or the halftime
Mhm.
show people now, and I totally get it. That's what it's like 50% of all homes in America are watching the Super Bowl. So that's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are staying up late, especially if the game's close.
Mhm.
That are staying up late, especially if we're both on Eastern time zone, so
Mhm.
we're up late for that, and
Mhm.
then why not have the day off? It's all made up anyway.
Right. Why not?
I cannot believe we are done already.
Yeah, that
thank
that was quick, man.
thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate you, Mike.
Hey, listen, if you need me to answer the same 6 questions again, a little bit of the 6 months from now, I'll do it. That's how much fun I had, man. I appreciate you having me on. This was dope. I really enjoy your show. The concept of your show is amazing. Again, like I said, learning people is a thing for me, and that's exactly what you offer up to your listeners. So this is really, really dope, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in once again to Demond Does. And if you could take just a quick second to dip on into where you downloaded this podcast app, where you get that sweet, sweet podcast action, and make sure you leave 5 stars, leave a review so more people can join the conversation. So, until next time, see it, hear it, speak it, live.